Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And happy 2026, by the way.
Yes.
It's a brand new year, and we're going to talk about a brand new year and the same old problems, which is video game journalists complaining about the lack of politics
I know,
in gaming.
Nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed. So this article came out a couple days ago, but I thought it was worth covering because reading between the lines here, it seems like they are angry that games aren't more political. We had 10 plus
looking
years.
At the picture, I can't tell. I think it looks like a they them, so that doesn't surprise me at all.
This is also The Guardian, which is very left-wing, but they seem upset that games are trying to get away from politics, and they're like, no, they need to be political. And
how dare you have fun?
How dare you have fun? And we'll talk about this. There's going to be a lot of grousing because the people that have been in charge of the narrative for the last 10 to 15 years are basically left-wing activists. They've been in charge of the narrative in the media. They've been in charge of video game blogs almost exclusively. Almost all the blogs have been left-wing politics, with a little bit of video games sprinkled in there, but mostly left-wing politics. And that has worked its way into the mainstream industry, AAA gaming, which is imploding now. I think in part because of the activism that has infected the entire industry, and people don't want to spend $80 on a lecture. Right?
Yeah, pretty much. Why would you?
Why would you? So what they're doing is they're supporting more indie titles where, the people aren't as obsessed about politics, or if they are, they know enough to keep it out of the games.
And then the game companies are like trying to walk it back now, a little too late, because they're trying to win audiences back because they've lost too much, and that's why they're having a hissy fit.
So let's talk about that, because I think 2026 is going to be one of those years where this is the year we're going to really start seeing the change that was kind of started a year or two ago, because remember, it takes a few years for this stuff to come out, right? Mm-hmm. And it's same with movies. Like, we've got some residual activist entertainment that's still coming out because the projects were greenlit a few years ago. But I think 2026, 2027, we're going to start seeing some major course correction. And it's going to be the result of, I think, a lot of these people getting gone from the industry. And, it is what it is. Basically, at the end of the day, money talks, right?
Yeah.
The gamers have been closing their wallets to this activist-infused entertainment, and
that doesn't mean they automatically align with the other side either.
No, not at all.
They want fun. They're tired of having activism and political BS and agenda talk shoved into every form of entertainment ever.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk about that too, because it's like, the solution is not. The solution to the rampant left-wing activism in video games is not necessarily make a bunch of right-wing video games.
No.
Just make games for a general audience again. That's really all you got to do.
Make games fun again.
Make games fun again. So let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, you get woohoo if you do.
Woohoo.
Go out to more.clownfishtv.com. That's moreclownfishtv.com for more Clownfish TV. Again, this comes from The Guardian. State of play. Who holds the power in the video game industry in 2025? So this is a kind of a year-end wrap-up, and I'm going to skip all the way to the bottom first, and then I'm going to kind of walk it back to how they got to this place. So we go all the way to the bottom here, right? This person says, I don't pretend to be neutral on politics, basically. Earlier this year, after I wrote about the Saudi acquisition of EA, I got an email from a reader asking if some of this stuff is more editorial opinion rather than fact or news. The answer is it's both. I will never report anything here that isn't true, but I also won't shy away from delivering my informed opinion on these things.
Whoa. Wait. I won't say anything that's not true, but I'll give you my informed opinion. Well, that means that it's not necessarily true. That's your opinion. I like your opinion because you disagree with me. You're an idiot. I'm the informed one. So my opinion basically is news. That is what they just said.
Yeah, unsurprisingly, and this is why The Guardian's begging for money all the time, by the way, because advertisers probably won't touch it. And readers aren't subscribing, so they have to beg for donations. Unsurprisingly, for a Guardian journalist, my values are inclusive, left-leaning, and somewhat skeptical of corporate power. And of course, that informs what I write in Pushing Buttons. I think that those values are vital context in these times. So this is where it gets
because they are educated and you're not.
Playing games is something a lot of us do for escapism, and a lot of people still react defensively if you talk about their relevance to real-world politics. Don't we play games to get away from this stuff? Yeah, we do. Can't we just concentrate on the hundreds of fantastic games that come out every single year from creatively fired-up developers and artists all over the world? Yeah, we should. But games are inextricable from what's happening in the real world. Is. As if to symbolize this year's Summer Game Fest, a showcase of forthcoming games held in LA in June, was interrupted by an ICE protest. Yeah, so like it matters who has power. Games feel so exciting because they often give so much power to their players to carve their own paths through their worlds. As players, we leave an impression on games, and they leave an impression on us. In an ideal world, players and developers would be the people who held the power in the video game industry. If we enjoy video games, it's worth keeping an eye on the biggest players. We need to see who's in control of games because, if their politics don't align, we're going to have to call it out. I'm like...
Again, opinion?
This is opinion.
By someone who's supposedly smarter than you because they said so.
Yeah, and that's a lot of these
They're
people.
informed and you're not, you pleb.
So what the article is mostly about is corporatism and politics creeping into it. And there are, the two things go hand in hand, right? It would be fine. Here's where I'm at with this. It would be fine if it was a corporation that held the ideals that these people agreed with. It would be fine. They love Microsoft.
They wouldn't be running these if that was the case. Yeah.
No, they'd be like, oh, it's good that a good company that does good things for people that
you better buy that game or you're not a good person.
You're not a good person.
I'm informed and you're not, you dumbass. So give your money to me because I said so.
They loved it when Microsoft was going all in on the pride stuff and they were going all in on the inclusivity and whatever. But now that Microsoft, they're a little too Israel adjacent for our liking. They're firing people now, and they're trying to,
they're a little too friendly with the wrong types of people.
Yeah, exactly. Now the gaming journos are turning on. It's like, did you really look? If you're claiming to be anti-corporation, did you ever really believe these companies were your friends? They're not your friends.
Well, they're anti-corporation when they don't do what you want.
When they don't,
yeah. I'm anti-corporation. No, you're not. You're anti-corporation when they don't do the games that you want. Let's not make any mistake about it. And are they fact-based or opinion-based? The answer is opinion-based.
Yes, it's opinion-based. They said, a few decades ago, basically, people ignored video games. They said, as their popularity has grown, so have their political and cultural relevance.
Wait. People ignored games, but now their popularity is growing. Where have you been? How old are you? How
not old enough to remember.
It's only been the last few years. Are you serious?
Atari was huge. Arcades were huge. Nintendo was huge.
Well, that's been farther back in the last few years. So 20 years ago. 20 years ago wasn't that long ago, guys. Games were huge then.
Hearings in Congress over Mortal Kombat and Night Trap, right? Like, I don't think this person's been around long enough to remember
clearly not.
They said the ways in which games intersect with real life are now colored by the economic and political reality of our times. So basically what they're saying is, I know you guys don't want me to talk about politics when it comes to video games, but I'm going to fucking talk about politics when it comes to video games. And this is my justification for why I need to talk about politics when it comes to video games.
Well, that and the fact that we're mad that they cost too much. Which, I mean, that's everybody's mad about that. But yeah.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting. They're singing the praises of Claire Obscure Expedition 33. Other gaming journos were angry because they used like 12 AI images in the game, and they're all pissed about it. But I do think it's good. I think what's going to happen is we're going to have smaller teams put out better games because of these corporations being too bloated or whatever. But really, they got hosed. And they got lied to by a bunch of activists. So
they hired you for your to consult on the games. You changed a bunch of stuff. People were like, "This is stupid," and it bit you in the ass.
Yeah. So this is interesting. This is coming from 80 level. And they said, let's play Game Company Tycoon. This is, who is this guy they're talking to? Owen Mahoney, Nexon's former CEO. He says, you're sitting in the CEO seat. You're running a $23 billion company, and you have to make a decision in a very short period of time to greenlight a project. And if that new project doesn't do well, you're going to be explaining to your board why you burnt $300 million in company cash. You get one of those mistakes with a board of a company that size. If you do it again, they're going to be openly calling for your head. And by the third time, you'll have an activist investor. Every CEO who runs a public game company is in that exact situation. And the common denominator with a lot of these massive misfires beyond Sweet Baby Inc. was that they hired activists and they tried to go.
Well, I think it's even further than that. How many game companies used to have boards? Like, you know what I mean? They used to be like independent companies. They're gone too corporate. And I think that, you know, decisions are made based on, you have activists they hired, which yes, is one. But I think it's also, they're trying to, you know, they have to also answer to this board of directors now constantly.
Yeah. And that's like the worst possible thing that could happen. So I do agree. I do agree with The Guardian in that regard, that things have gotten too corporate.
I agree too with that. Yes.
Because really that's kind of what led to the destruction of Atari too, was they were like, well, let's just crank out more games. More games. Who cares if they're good? Crank it out. Get them out for Christmas.
It's been something that's cyclic, and you've seen it many times before. So yes, that's a provable something. And
now they're talking about how they're basically being shown up. You spend $300 million on a game that's a huge albatross, but like one guy does Minecraft. And it's like a cultural touchstone, right? So, I mean, but they've been listening to the wrong people, and they've been listening to these gaming journos, and these gaming journos for at least the last 10, 15 years have definitely been activists first, and they want to inject politics into the space. But then I think CEOs are looking at like, well, all the you know, publications out there, or the Kotakus and the Polygons and whatever, they're all talking about how we need more diversity and inclusion. So we'll hire a consultant to come in, and then it turns out the consultants are friends with the, you know what I'm saying? So it's one big giant circle jerk, and it ends with these companies losing hundreds of millions of dollars. So if they're listening to alternative voices now, and they're going back to actual gamers and asking actual gamers what they want, because it's really not hard. It's the same with the comics and movies and stuff. It's not hard. You have to play to your consumer base, or to your customer, your paying customers. And they're going back to these people, and they're trying to produce stuff that's, you know, going to be more mainstream. And these people are getting angry. They're getting pissed about it.
Well, yeah, because they want you to listen to them.
Yeah, and that's what they've fought for so long. But the thing is, games were not political for the longest time. And I keep telling people, like, again, Kiva, is that their name? Kiza. Kiza, as someone who grew up in the 80s, 90s, and who read Electronic Gaming Monthly pretty much every month, they never once mentioned politics. It never came up. It was all about... No,
because it was escapism. And that's why something that destroyed movies and destroyed TV shows and destroyed a lot of this stuff was the fact that you guys kept taking escapism and trying to use it to shoehorn your own personal stuff into. Hell, I'm really worried about the Masters of the Universe movie because, I mean, for many reasons, but one of them was the write-up they were sending out to marketing things.
Yeah,
it's a modern take on, you know, identity and, you know, it's like identity. Like, what the you know, you guys are just you cannot stop.
So that's what I think is going on here, is basically this person is trying to defend talking politics when it comes to video games, and they're getting pushback from their own audience at The Guardian, which is pretty left wing, right? But I think people in general are tired of it. And I'm not saying go right wing either. I mean, I want to be very clear on that. I'm not saying, well, no, just make everything about the Trump and the whatever. No. I'm saying let's just fucking make games. Let people enjoy their games in peace, right? Unless you've got like Activist Simulator 3000 or something. Stop trying to police the industry to take out people that just want to just play games, because that's what's going on. Like a lot of, and I'm not saying this person in particular, but there are so many people that they think it's their holy mission to police all these indie developers and tell them what they can and can't produce. On one hand, you're like, oh, we don't want corporations owning everything. But then the other hand, they're like, but we're going to shame these indie developers if they're not.
Right, you're like, they just want all the control. They want to be the gatekeepers and everything else. And for people who scream about gatekeepers, they're the ones who have been the biggest gatekeepers in them all.
And they've lost. And that's what we're going to see, a lot more salt, I think, because I think a lot of these gaming journos are being told to rein it in by their corporate owners.
They're getting stepped over.
They're getting stepped over. Gamers are going to podcasters, they're going to YouTubers. They're, you know, going to Substack. They're going other places to get their gaming news and opinions from, and they're stepping over you because you guys have taken it too far. It's very obvious that everything you do is going to be through a political lens. And I'm not saying go the opposite direction. I don't want to go to like a super right-wing publication either, where everything's Trump. I don't give a shit. I just want to play the game, right? Yeah. That's it. I don't know. So we'll see what 2026 brings. I don't think it's going to be good for a lot of these people, though. We're going to wrap it up.
Yep.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.